Good morning, everybody. Day two. I appreciate everybody's time. I'm Steve Pennington from Chesapeake Marketing. Hopefully the guys that returned for the second day got a lot out of yesterday, and the new folks that came in today, there's a bunch of good presentations this morning, as well as we have the vendor room next door, lunch, and some get-together over there. So hopefully everybody will have some time to get over to see the vendors. And again, I'm looking forward to another great day of presentations. I heard a lot of positive things from yesterday and a lot of questions about, are you going to do this again next year? So that's always a good sign that the information is appropriate. So we'll hope to have a good day today. And if anybody has any questions or needs anything along the way, please don't hesitate asking. I'll turn this over to the first presenter.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning. I'm Dave Sinise. I'm the Eastern Regional Sales Manager for Comnet. We are a hardened communications equipment manufacturer based in Danbury, Connecticut. Hopefully most of you know us. If you don't, please stop over to our booth and check it out. We also, a couple years ago, bought a company called Raspberry Technologies. They do hardened servers, switches, and so the presentation that Thomas Klecka is going to do for us today is talking about FedRAMP, which is a federal marketplace for cloud services. And he's going to explain the process, what it is, how we're getting there, and how our products fit into that marketplace. So with that said, Thomas?
So Comnet is located in Danbury, Connecticut. We've been around since '08. We are part of the ACRE family, which stands for Access Control Related Enterprises. So we work with Vanderbilt, RS2, Open Options, other access control companies. We're the transmission and compute solution for those offerings. And then, as Dave mentioned, Raspberry is now part of the Comnet family, so Raspberry is a brand up under the Comnet transmission side for mostly compute technology, but we also have some Raspberry branded switches as well. So Monitor is our health monitoring tool. It's designed specifically for the physical security environment. It's designed around security integrators and security personnel to give you guys a 10,000-foot view of what's happening with your system. Cameras go up or down, VMSs aren't recording, switches are up or down, servers are up or down, RAM, CPU rate, all that kind of fails. That's what this is designed for. When we launched it first, it was cloud-based. It's hosted in AWS. It's a secure connection. But we're now getting ready to add it into the federal cloud space as well. So a Monitor agent sits on a server. It can be a Raspberry branded box. It can be a third-party server. It doesn't matter to us as long as it's running a Windows OS. You can install it and start capturing all this data. And then we also support syslog integration as well. So we don't have to just report to ourselves. We can send it to a Splunk, a Perch, even a SolarWinds Orion or some other service like that. And then inside of that, we also have some remote management capabilities. So you can do things like schedule your Windows updates and have them automated through this system. You can send PowerShell scripts to it. You can deploy Silence on any target machines. And soon you'll also be able to install other third-party applications through that same tool that we're using for Silence. Reboot the system, restart specific Windows services, use it as kind of a tool to not have to remote in to the physical desktop to do some of this stuff. You can do it all through scripts inside the Cloud UI. So what is FedRAMP? FedRAMP is basically a regulatory body for the federal government that wants to utilize cloud services. So they go through, have a very rigorous testing program that you have to go through to get into that cloud space, and then they also maintain those certifications for you. So you go through it, and then they are continuously doing audits about every 90 days to make sure you're still in compliance and come to us and say, okay, here's what you need to fix or remediate, and here's what you need to do. So what we are doing with FedRAMP is we are getting the Monitor agent and what I call the cloud agent, which is just the cloud itself, involved into that through a sponsor called FedCloud IA. And so they kind of act as an MSP for both federal agencies and integrators trying to get into that cloud space, and they kind of help you through the rigmarole of getting certified and into that space. They also provide some other services as far as like purchasing hardware and other softwares through the FedCloud IA group. So where we're at in the process, there's really two kind of ways to get through FedRAMP. You can go through the agency process, which an agency sponsors you. You have to go through whatever their systems and checks is. It's not as rigorous as JAB, which is what we are doing. JAB is the Joint Authorization Board, so you work with DoD, DHS, and GSA. And with JAB, the federal agencies can either say, oh, the JAB certification is good enough, or no, we're a little bit more stringent. Let's go through an agency process, and it kind of lets us skip some of these processes in the beginning because we already have the JAB authorization. So when we get through with this process, we will actually have both a civilian and DoD certification as far as cybersecurity goes with this. We're in the readiness assessment process right now. We're just about wrapping that up. We should be done with it by the end of this month, and then we'll have completed the JAB authorization process by the end of this year, and we'll be listed in what FedRAMP calls the marketplace, which is where you can get in contact with us or Cloud IA to start purchasing the monitoring hardware and software. The way that we are kind of going to market with this is three primary options. So software as a service, platform as a service with the utilization of the agency's WAN, or platform as a service where we are actually using the Fed Cloud IA WAN. So if we go through software as a service, there's some head-end fees for the cloud, but you can get servers, virtual machines, and annual recertifications are included in those fees. Licensing and subscription for Raspberry Monitor. So there's a yearly basically subscription per OS with Monitor, so that all comes as part of it. And then the agency is responsible for your workstation servers and the ability to communicate to that Fed Cloud servers. If you do platform as a service, we call that extending the authorization boundary, so it gets you a little bit more out of Cloud IA. So Fed Cloud IA is now responsible for making sure your policies, images, and auditing and hardening are all up to spec and staying inside FedRAMP's requirements. But you are providing the outlet for that information to get to that cloud space. And then lastly, platform as a service with WAN provided by Fed Cloud IA. Basically, it's everything that the first or the second option has, but you are also purchasing your internet access or cloud access through Fed Cloud, and they'll do an SD-WAN based on your geographical location, so it can be different from site to site when you do that, because it is based on whatever is locally available. And then so there are some annual fees with the platform as a service. So there's a per site compliance fee, and they consider sites just unique locations. So it can be two physical buildings, or it can even be a network hop that is more than basically one switch, so one distribution switch to another. And then you can also use Fed Cloud IA identity. So if you don't want to use your CAC or PIV cards to authenticate into the system, they'll provide you with an identity that you can use. They charge you a one-time fee per identity for that. And then workstation service fees basically going through all your workstations and making sure that they're up to compliance and authorization needed to be on your federal network. And then the Raspberry fees. So monitor and manage as hosted in the cloud comes with a 1-year software assurance plan, gets you support, gets you production and test environments to test inside your environment, and 10 evaluation agents to deploy in any of your existing infrastructure. And then you can purchase in 1, 3, 5, or custom blocks as needed for that. And then to get technical support on the monitor piece, we have a separate software assurance plan that you can purchase again in kind of custom blocks, but we generally sell it in 2-year blocks. And so that's kind of what FedRAMP is. So now what I'll do is I'll kind of go through what Monitor does and how you can utilize the Monitor interface inside the software or inside your environment. So whether you're using it hosted through what we call monitor.raspberry or inside your own environment. When you log into it, the first thing you'll see is this dashboard, and this is what's going to give you that 10,000-foot view of what's going on with your system. So I have these different battle cards across the top. They give me quick filters to just let me see what's happening with the system. So server health is showing me things like Windows errors and warnings, whether or not my RAM is working well, if I have a GPU, if it's working and doing what it's supposed to do. Each individual disk and the RAID array that those disks make up all show up under server health. So Windows and hardware components. We'll skip VMS health for now and go into IoT health. So IoT health is what's monitoring those those end devices. So it's monitoring both the switch and any devices attached to that switch downstream. So with Raspberry hardware, we're actually monitoring HTTP and RTSP streams between the endpoint and whatever application is reporting to. With third-party devices, whether it's a Comnet switch or even a third-party switch like a Cisco, it's monitoring SNMP traps and looking for OIDs and MIB alerts for that. So I get video loss. If I'm providing PoE power through a Comnet or Raspberry switch, I can power cycle that device to bring it back to life, and we're letting you know, hey, this camera is going up or down, or this access control point is flapping up or down. We're not seeing a stable connection between that, and you can now remote into that switch or do whatever you need to do to kind of get that issue resolved. And then cybersecurity posture is your cybersecurity score. So what we're looking for are two different things here. Camera defense, which is Raspberry's firewall that's built into all of the Raspberry branded switches, and whether or not your server has some sort of malware protection on it. So we include Cylance on all of our servers. If you don't know what they are, they're a machine learning AI type antivirus application. They're very lightweight. They don't use a lot of RAM. They don't use a lot of CPU. And they don't require an internet connection to stop malware. Basically, they learn what your system does on a day-to-day basis, and then they block anything that kind of happens outside of that or tries to make a system-level change that they've never seen before. When we deploy Cylance, we've gone through with all of our VMS partners to make sure that it installs correctly, doesn't blacklist or flag anything or block anything. So you're basically able to deploy and install whatever you need to do. But we can also tell if you're using Norton, McAfee, Windows Defender, or some other third-party application and make sure that it's licensed and in good health or good standing to make sure that you have that cybersecurity. So as I go through and make sure that I enable camera defense on my switch or turn on or license my malware protection on my server, I'll see that score kind of creep up to 100%. And then lastly, manage tasks. Again, this allows me to make changes to my system. So I can push Windows updates, I can do them on demand or create a schedule and have them just reoccur. I can restart a specific Windows service, I can restart the Windows machine itself, or I can send custom PowerShell scripts from here to any target machines. And I can do them one at a time, I can do them 25, 50, 100 at a time. I can really push this out as needed, and I'll get notifications through Monitor whether or not that succeeded or failed, how many devices I pushed it to, and how many devices took those targets or took those tasks. And then I can also see my Windows updates from here, whether it's an OS or Windows update or even a hardware component update. So I can tell whether my Intel drivers are up to date, my GPU drivers are up to date. Even if my disks have firmware, I can tell if they need updates, and I can grab those and push those as needed to all of my devices across my entire ecosystem. And so with this, we can also send out text and email alerts. And here's kind of everything, again, that we're capturing. And even if I'm using like an on-prem, I'm sending this to like a Splunk or a Perch. All these alert types that I have here are automatically built into that application once I tell the agent, hey, send this over here. These profiles are built in there, and then you go into that application and kind of send them where you want. So cybersecurity is looking at camera defense, as well as some of the stuff that we do on the Comnet side, like Port Guardian. So we're looking for things like MAC spoofing or unauthorized devices on the network. We're also able to tell whether or not on the endpoint defenders and SSIQ switches, whether or not devices are trying to crosstalk into other VLANs. We'll block that and let you know that's happening. or we'll capture malware protection alerts from Cylance and send those out. So we can tell you not only on the Windows side, or not only on the network side, but also on the Windows side if things are awry. IoT loss, IoT devices are up or down, disconnected or reconnected, being PoE rebooted, whether your switches or servers are on or offline, any components that we're monitoring, things like, again, RAID health, power supply, disk health, so we will not only tell you, hey, disk 4 or disk bay 4 has failed, it's also affecting this RAID array is now in a degraded state because this drive is down. And then any Windows events, whether they're warnings or errors inside the Windows system log or event viewer. VMS health monitoring today is only on Milestone. It is open to other VMSs. We just haven't had any embrace it the way Milestone did. So if just because it's only Milestone today doesn't mean it's always going to be Milestone. If we have an opportunity and the VMS manufacturer is willing to work with us, then we can add them in. But basically what we're doing there is we're monitoring the recording and management services for Milestone, and then whether or not any of the recording devices attached to that recording service are up or down and doing what they're supposed to do. So if you have it set to record on motion and it detects motion and it doesn't write to disk, we can find that, flag it, and tell you, hey, this device was supposed to and did not record at this time, so you can figure out what's going on there. So where we send those alerts, when you log into Monitor or have a Monitor account, you're automatically added to this distribution list, but you don't have to have an account in Monitor to get emails. So I can go in and create an email group, and I can send that to an IT help desk or to a distribution group that needs to be alerted on it, and they can get every alert, just a weekly report that tells them the last 7 days of history on that server or those servers, or I can get both, and I can also send those reports via text message. So I can get these alerts in real time on my phone, either through email or text. Now, when you're using monitor.raspberry.net, we handle all the back-end email communications, so you don't have to put any SMTP servers or anything like that. You just tell us where you want it to go, and we'll handle getting it there. If you are doing on-prem, then you have to tell the cloud agent where you want that to go. So you provide the SMTP, we support TLS and all that. You just give us the port numbers you're using, any credentials we need, and then we'll handle that communication. We give you a little test email button to make sure if you get that, then you'll get everything. And so that's kind of FedRAMP, what Monitor is, and how we're kind of trying to get into that marketplace where we're at. So again, we're hoping to be and on target to be in the marketplace by the end of this year, and then from there you'll be able to start deploying it inside your federal agencies and start utilizing it either as us hosting it through FedCloud IA or you hosting it yourself inside your own ecosystem.